The words, "You're too distracting for our patients," echoed in Nurse Sarah Thompson's ears as she stood in the break room of Mercy Grace Hospital in Dallas, Texas, on May 28, 2025. At 27, Sarah was known not only for her exceptional nursing skills, but also for her striking appearance. Tall, with flowing chestnut hair and a naturally curvy figure that turned heads. Yet, it wasn't her professionalism or dedication that was under scrutiny, it was her looks. That morning, the hospital administration called her into a meeting. The human resources manager, avoiding eye contact, handed her a termination letter, citing inappropriate attire and discomfort among patients and staff. Sarah was stunned. She wore the same standard issue scrubs as everyone else. Her only so-called offense was her natural physique. Humiliated and heartbroken, Sarah packed her belongings and left the hospital where she had poured her heart into caring for others. She had always believed her work would speak for itself, that her compassion and competence would be enough. But now, she was being punished for something entirely beyond her control. That evening, she called her older brother, Captain Michael Thompson, a U.S. Army officer recently returned from deployment overseas. Hesitant to burden him, she paused, but Michael sensed something was wrong. "Sarah, what's wrong?" he asked gently. Through tears, she recounted the day's events. Michael listened silently, his jaw tightening with each word. When she finished, there was a long pause. "So, they fired you because of how you look?" he said, disbelief and anger rising in his voice. "They said I was a distraction," Sarah whispered. The next morning, Michael put on his full-dress uniform and drove to Mercy Grace Hospital. He walked through the front doors with purpose, his medals gleaming, his posture rigid. Staff and patients turned to look, some recognizing him from local news stories about his military service. He approached the front desk calmly but firmly. "I need to speak with the hospital administrator." Within minutes, he was escorted to a conference room where the human resources manager and administrator waited, visibly uneasy. "Captain Thompson, how can we assist you today?" the administrator began cautiously. Michael stood firm. "I'm here regarding my sister, Nurse Sarah Thompson. I understand she was terminated due to her appearance." The human resources manager shifted in his seat. "Captain, we have policies to maintain a professional environment." Michael raised his voice slightly, not in anger but in authority. "Professionalism? Sarah has worked double shifts, sat with grieving families, and saved more lives than she can count. She's been a light in this building, and now you're telling me she's unfit to work here because of her body." The room went still. In the United States Army, we judge people by their actions, their discipline, and their ability to lead, not their appearance. I won't stand by while a medical institution reduces my sister to a distraction. He stepped closer. "I will take this public. I will speak to the media, to legal advocates, to every person who needs to hear this. Because what happened to her, what you allowed to happen, is not just wrong, it is disgraceful." That afternoon, Michael took to social media, posting a photo of Sarah in her nursing scrubs, smiling warmly, along with a heartfelt caption describing what had happened. Within hours, the story exploded online. The headline read, "Nurse fired for being too attractive. Her Army brother's response sparks outrage." The story went viral. Comments poured in from people around the world. Thousands of nurses shared similar stories of being told to cover up, wear baggier clothes, or tone down their femininity. Advocacy groups for women's rights and workplace equality began rush speak to the media, to legal advocates, to every person who needs to hear this. Because what happened to her, what you allowed to happen, is not just wrong, it is disgraceful. That afternoon, Michael took to social media, posting a photo of Sarah in her nursing scrubs, smiling warmly, along with a heartfelt caption describing what had happened. Within hours, the story exploded online. The headline read, "Nurse fired for being too attractive. Her army brother's response sparks outrage." The story went viral. Comments poured in from people around the world. Thousands of nurses shared similar stories of being told to cover up, wear baggier clothes, or tone down their femininity. Advocacy groups for women's rights and workplace equality began resharing the post. National news outlets picked up the story, airing interviews with Sarah and Michael that highlighted not only her personal injustice, but the widespread problem of appearance-based discrimination in healthcare. Under public pressure, Mercy Grace Hospital issued a formal apology, promising to revise internal conduct policies and retrain staff, but the damage was done. The public had chosen a side, Sarah's side. Amid the wave of attention, Sarah received a call from Harmony Care Medical Center, a top-rated, inclusive facility that had seen her story. They offered her a position immediately, noting her professionalism, compassion, and strength under pressure. On her first day, she was greeted with respect, warmth, and something she hadn't felt in weeks: genuine appreciation. No one looked her up and down. No one whispered behind her back. She was not a distraction. She was exactly where she belonged. As Sarah walked the halls of her new hospital, her heart felt lighter. She had faced humiliation and injustice, but emerged stronger, more confident, and no longer alone. Thanks to her brother's courage and the power of public support, her story had sparked a national conversation. Countless women could now walk into work knowing they were valued for their character, not their appearance. In a world too eager to judge women by their looks, let us remember that character, compassion, and courage will always outshine prejudice. Never let anyone shame you for being who you are. Sarah didn't fight for revenge, she stood for respect. And now, the world stands with her. Before we end this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and drop a karma in the comments below.